Today has UConn two-time championship basketball coach Dan Hurley actually about to become the drunken Irish fool. Michael McLean, brassballsvideos.com. I am an ex-minor professional hockey coach, ex-amateur team owner and championship hockey coach, turned 8-figure entrepreneur. You can actually download a free copy of my brand new book, 5 Ways to Unfuck Your Life in the Next 30 Days. There's a link in the comments below, brassballsvideos.com. Put in your email and I will email you a copy of the book, a digital copy, within 5 minutes. The link is below. If you need a blueprint to help you get your shit together in the next month, like I have many times in my life, this book will help you do exactly that. So I have been enjoying, over the last few days, the circus and the country club that the Los Angeles Lakers have been and continue to be. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this for La La Land, for Holly Weird, as the great Matt Fury would say. It is pure entertainment. When it comes to the most historic franchise in the NBA, if you're a Lakers fan or a basketball fan, you can almost look at it as one of the most pathetic displays of a franchise that should know better. But this is also, as an entrepreneur, an example of what they talk about when they say family businesses. After the original founder builds a company up into a successful business, if the second generation doesn't destroy or burn the company to the ground, then it's the third generation that does it. I know that because I took over my dad's insurance company, and that was one of the warnings I was given by my father. It's the second generation that destroys the company with entitlement and laziness and all of that kind of stuff. And if not, then it's the third generation. So thankfully, in our case, I got the message. And then there was no third generation. I sold the business, McLean Insurance, back in 2017 for a industry record multiple, and I never tempted fate. We didn't give ourselves a chance to become the Los Angeles Lakers. So what pure infotainment over the last week with La Princess, his son, Jenny Buss, the so-called leader of the franchise. They got it right earlier last week. When, as yours relentless predicted, JJ Redick, they tossed it out there. They wanted to test the waters. They wanted to see if even Laker fans would accept hiring LeBron's little fanboy, the podcaster, JJ Redick, as I had predicted. They wanted to test this out. So somebody leaked the story. It doesn't matter who the source was, because it was such a pathetic hire potential. A guy who literally has never coached basketball in his life. He's drawn up a few plays on YouTube, and his claim to fame is the fact that he's LeBron James's podcast buddy. These two guys deserve each other. So it's always been thought that, LeBron, who's been through 4 Laker coaches? Has it been 4 Laker coaches? I mean, coaches go to La La Land. It's to die. I mean, becoming a coach of the Los Angeles Lakers and the country club that it is and the circus that it is, that's where good quality coaches go to die. It's a coach's graveyard. And it won't be any different for our boy, Dan Hurley, no matter how much he thinks he can do the same thing as he did in college. The thing that Hurley has to understand, whether he decides to join the Lakers or not, the amount of money and the length of the contract doesn't mean anything when you try or you take on the challenge of coaching the victim. It all starts and ends with the parasite in your franchise called LeBron James. As soon as you bring that parasite into any organization, and it really doesn't matter what organization it is, it could be Cleveland, it could be down the road, the Knicks, it could be the Phoenix, it could be back to Cleveland again, it could be Miami. The only guarantee with the victim is that it ends badly. He might win you some games, and in a case, where everything's perfect and you've got the best players, he might even win you a championship. But you'll sell your fucking soul to get it. And in the end, he's proven time and time again, he can't get the job done unless he is in a situation where he has the best players around him and the perfect situation. In other words, he's no Michael Jordan, not even close. He's no Magic Johnson, he's no Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he's no Larry Bird, not even close. So I'm amused that a guy like Hurley would even take a meeting with the Lakers unless, and I mean, we have to give Dan Hurley, a two-time back-to-back national men's champion coach, you've got to give him the benefit of the doubt that maybe this is the end for La Queen in La La Land. Maybe the part of the Hurley deal is that for the first time in a couple of decades, the Lakers are tired of the circus, tired of the country club, and of course tired of LeBron and co., that they finally said, okay, this JJ Redick stuff isn't going to fly. They tested the waters earlier last week. They were the laughing stock of the NBA and sports for 24 hours. But maybe they're so sick and tired of having their franchise, the owners, the general managers, the coaches, the fans, held hostage by a completely uncoachable person, a completely uncoachable professional athlete like James, that maybe, and this is my hope for such a great organization with such a history of winning championships, that finally the Bus family has said, you know what, let's bring in the best coach available, which arguably, Dan Hurley's on that list. Bring him in. LeBron is gone. He's not re-signed. He can take his act to Cleveland. They would bring him back. JJ Redick could be the new coach of the Cavaliers, and the parasite that is LeBron James could then go on that host, and he could in the last 2 to 3 years of his career, he can suck the living life force out of that franchise. And if Cleveland isn't an option, then he's the parasite. He can go to Phoenix, or he could even go and destroy what's working in New York with the Knicks. So literally, it's just a question of where he goes to play with his son, who has no business being drafted in the first round, who has no business no business playing in the NBA yet. And basically, you bring that cancer into your organization. You know, LeBron is radioactive to an organization. He's radioactive. You know, it's exciting in the beginning. Everything's new. He's like the new shiny object, right? Instant. I wouldn't call it credibility, but instant excitement. But then the reality sets in and the excuses start to pile up, and the whining and the complaining, and the coaches start to be fired, and the finger pointing at ownership, and then the finger pointing at teammates. I can't win with these guys. I can't win with this coach. I can't win with this strategy. I can't. Me, right? So he can take that act for one last curtain call, because don't forget, this massive narcissist, he still has to go on his 3-year retirement tour. Remember what he said last year? He said, oh, I don't want to be one of those guys that, you know, goes and says goodbye, you know, the whole year. He was being quite honest. He wants to do it over 2 to 3 years. So whichever team agrees to pay this guy maximum money for the 3 twilight years of his career, where he totally doesn't give a shit about winning another NBA title. That's not what it's about. What it's about is, of course, me. And what's the me? I want to play with my kids. Okay? Who gives a shit about, you know, $1 billion franchise that's trying to, you know, win NBA titles for the millions of fans that support them? No. My one thing, La Princess, is I want to play with my kid, who averages, what does he average? 5 points a game in college ball. So winning is no longer the number one thing, right? When winning was no longer the number one thing in Chicago, I mean, Michael walked away from the game. And even he would regret coming back and playing for, you know, his own organization and all that nonsense that goes on. But you literally have to tear the jersey off most of these guys. And the owners, they hesitate. You're going to see this with Ovechkin in Washington. He's going to play until he breaks Gretzky's goal-scoring record. He doesn't give a shit if the team ends up in 32nd place for 2 years, or he can barely skate in another 2 or 3 years. That doesn't matter. He's going to still be the captain. He's still going to drag that franchise down to the bottom and then finally, when he breaks Gretzky's record, because now it's just a matter of time to do it, then and only then will they have that guy retire and off their roster. So it's a fascinating concept that when you draft, especially these generational players, whether it's a Sidney Crosby or a Wayne Gretzky or a Tom Brady or a Joe Montana or a LeBron James or a Michael Jordan, it really, I mean, you draft these kids, they're game changers. They go to the worst organization because that's part of the lottery. And then over time, they completely transform the organization for the better. They literally transform the franchise, the team, even the city. And then they have, you know, a decade or 15 years of unprecedented winning. There's always some championships in there. In most cases where players actually don't do what LeBron does, they actually stay with their team like a Sidney Crosby and win 3 titles. Or like a Kobe, they stay with the Lakers and win titles. They don't make excuses and jump around and say, well, you know, I don't have the players, we don't have the coaches, I don't like the city, and they're gone. So with these guys, at the end of the career, when they've gone lame. In other words, Father Time is undefeated, right? You don't have the owners, you don't have the brass balls for these people to pull them aside and say, look it's time for you to go. You're one of the greatest of all time. It's time for you to go. And winning's no longer the main thing. It's about padding their stats or setting a record for their legacy. And in the meantime, the team can't be taken seriously. And that's what you're going to see happen with the Washington Capitals. That's what you see with NFL teams that keep players long past their expiry date. Same thing in the NBA. But I hope that Dan Hurley, I hope that when they sat down and talked to him on Friday, it was about cleaning house. I hope that was like, okay, we want you to come here like UConn, and we want you to build this over the next decade. And we want to win multiple NBA championships. I hope that was the refreshing conversation that they had. You know, we want to sign you to a 10-year deal. Money's not an issue, but we want to take a fucking broom to this place. We want to get rid of all of these guys, especially LeBron. We're not going to be wasting draft picks on his son, and we're going to get rid of anybody and everybody in this organization that you decide needs to go. It's like hiring Jimmy Johnson back in the days to coach the Cowboys, when Jerry Jones just said, take a broom, do whatever you got to do to get rid of all the losers. So I hope that was the refreshing conversation they had. I'm very, very doubtful. I think that the conversation would have went more like, well, we're going to have LeBron for 2 to 3 more years. If you guys can just work together, if you'll put the knee pads on, Hurley, and if you'll sell your fucking soul and you'll try and coach a guy who's proven that he is uncoachable, hates college coaches, hates guys that never played at the highest level, and resents any male authority, I think we can probably sneak in maybe another championship. We only have 3 more years of LeBron. Can you imagine? Only 3 more years of this circus. Only 3 more years of this not getting it done. Only 3 more years of this cancer in our organization. So we got to make the most of it. And, you know, you can develop his son, who isn't worth developing, certainly not worth a first-round pick, and we can continue to be the laughingstock of pro sports. I believe that's the conversation, because they simply didn't have the brass balls to do what's necessary to say, fuck it, we're done with this, we're done with the shortcuts, we're done with the cutting corners, we're done with trying to buy this and buy that, and we're going to take back our franchise. As owners, as the fan base, we're all going to take it back. And we're going to take our franchise back from the hostage stage that it's been in for the last several years. We're going to draft right. We're going to develop people. We're going to make a commitment to a high-end coach. We're going to provide the best environment we can. And we're going to build a dynasty. That's the message that a Dan Hurley needs to hear. Now, if he takes on LeBron in part of this, like I said, he is the drunken Irish fool. I mean, I'm half Irish, and in my minor pro and amateur coaching career, I must admit there's been a couple of shiny object jobs that were put in front of me. I wouldn't have been in the insurance business if I would have went for a situation like this at a much lower level. You know, it was sort of a Jimmy Johnson going to Miami because Dan Marino's the quarterback. And as coaches, you start to believe your own headlines. Like Bill Belichick, you start to think that you're greater than you are. And Jimmy Johnson at the end thought he was greater than he was. And then all of a sudden, you look in the locker room and there's no Tom Brady. Or you look in the locker room and there's no Troy Aikman. Or, you know, you look in the locker room and you don't have that franchise leader that you teamed up with. So, I mean, Dan Hurley to me is at the crossroads. This is you'd have to be mentally ill to take this job, but with LeBron attached, but I would love to see this guy take this job if there was a commitment to a 5 to 10 year complete rebuild. And you know, most Laker fans are sick and tired of the spending sprees and trying to put a Band-Aid on this and putting on the knee pads for La Princess and all this other stuff. I think that if you talk to fans, and I mean, Dan Hurley sells himself and says, you know what? This is almost like a Saban coming to Alabama back in the day. We're sick and tired of being held hostage. We're sick and tired of the politics. We're sick and tired of the backstabbing. We're sick and tired of the social justice nonsense. We're sick and tired of all of it. And we're going to take our franchise back. And Dan Hurley's going to be the guy who's in charge over the next 5-10 years of building this into the greatest dynasty in NBA in the last, you know, build a Chicago Bulls, build a dynasty that can withstand the test of time for a decade, and fans will buy into that. There's going to be a couple of lean years. You have the money to bring in the right people, but for God's sakes, get rid of the cancer that's eating the core of your franchise. Get rid of the radioactive players, the toxic people in there, and start again. And, you know, Hurley is a grown man, and he right now thinks he thinks he's unstoppable, and who wouldn't? But I'll tell you right now, he can go there if that tail is attached. And, you know, for a while, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. I've seen this in the NHL. I've seen it in the NFL. I've seen it where, you know, even LeBron can be on his best behavior for a few months. You know, I really like the new coach. And just the fact that fucking guy had to have a presser about how much he respects Hurley is a fucking red flag. What franchise needs to have their prima donna victim leader comment on the potential of a new coach who's probably the most successful and respected coach in college basketball at the time? I hope Hurley has the brains like Mike Krzyzewski years ago to say, thanks, but no thanks. I got a good deal for myself and my family. I know that the college landscape has changed. It's difficult with the NIL program and with the transfer portal. If he thinks that's difficult, wait till he tries to coach the uncoachable. Wait till he tries to coach AD and co. Wait till he calls a timeout and notices that, you know, the victim isn't even in the huddle. Wait till they start losing some games late in the season. Wait till they bow out in the playoffs. And I mean, LA is going to have to pay the price to build this the right way. So are you going to pay the price now? Or are you going to do it now and get rid of these clowns? Get rid of these people who don't give a shit about your team. All they want to do is tick a few boxes, play with your sons, this kind of horse shit. And then you're going to be 3 years down the road. Hurley's going to be gone. LeBron's going to be gone. His son's going to be gone. AD is going to be gone. You didn't win anything, and now you're starting to rebuild it 3 years from now, when you can just finally reclaim your rightful franchise, pull the Band-Aid off, tell those clowns that they're gone. If AD wants to go too, he can fucking go. Well, he can go too. Take a broom to the place and do what Jimmy Johnson did in Dallas. Get rid of all the losers, all the people that don't want to be there, all the people that are uncoachable. Give the baton to a real coach, whether it's Hurley or somebody else, and let them do their job. And let them do it for 5 years. And let them do it for 10 years. And you know what? You'll build something of significance. You'll build something of significance, and you'll stop being the country club and the clown show that you are right now. LA fans, they deserve so much better than this. And Jenny Buss and her brothers, they better get this one right. And they better step back, and if they bring in Hurley, they better bring him in with the right blueprint. That guy is a winner. And I hope he has the common sense to not take a job ever with this team that has LeBron James connected. Because if he does, he has nobody to blame but himself. It'll be over in 2 to 3 years. They'll be starting again with a different core. They'll be starting again without a guy like Hurley. And you know what? If he hitches his wagon to a guy like LeBron James, then it'll be the most miserable 2 to 3 years of his life. Why give up what you have now to hook your wagon to a guy that doesn't care about winning? Are you kidding me? If they win, that's great. But he's checking off boxes. This is his 3-year farewell tour. And long as they're his boxes, he's happy. LeBron, go to Cleveland. They'll put on the knee pads for you. They'll invite you into their universe. They'll hire your podcasting buddy as the coach, and you can do what you do best there. You can, over the next few years, suck the living life force out of that organization. If not that one, then Phoenix or New York. But for God's sakes, get this guy out of LA for the sake of basketball. And I hope Dan Hurley's taken this weekend to really think this one through, because this is the ultimate shining object. You know, I think I can coach LeBron. I think I can coach AD. I think I can manage the LA media. I think I can work with the Buss family. And all of it is just coaching malpractice. It's basketball malpractice. And it's peace of mind malpractice. And it's just right there for him to make the mistake of taking this job. Unless they say, you come in here, you make the decisions, you do what you have to do. LeBron's gone. There won't be any Bronny. AD can go. They can all go and build this the right way over the next 5 to 10 years. That's actually something you could sell to a real Los Angeles Lakers season ticket holder, fan, or supporter. Do it right, finally, and cut the shortcuts and the cheat codes and trying to buy something and develop your organization from the top down and get this back to where it should be, which is at the top of the National Basketball League Association. Hey, the clock is on Dan Hurley right now. We'll find out early this week whether he is actually makes a smart career decision, or whether he actually becomes the Irish drunken fool and hitches his wagon to LeBron James and the country club and the sideshow and the entire circus that comes with that. Remember, you can download my book, a free copy below, brassballsvideos.com. Send me your email at brassballsvideo. The link is in the comments, and I'll send you a copy of the book within 5 minutes. And you can print it off, you can study it, you can share it. Let me know what you think about the book. I appreciate your feedback, and it's my free gift to you. There's nothing else to buy. It's only a 22-page book. You can print it off and read it in one sitting, and then share it with the people in your world that can also need to hear that message. brassballsvideos.com. 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that'll change yours. Be relentless.